All right. So I use this concept of pillars a lot. Sometimes, usually it's 4, but if we move into weapons, it could be 6, it could be 8, whatever. Okay. But if this is new to you, I'm going to lay it out. If you've heard this before, I apologize. I just need to catch everybody up to things. Okay. So I'm going to draw things out 2 different ways, right? Because I like to make it picture, right? So if we think of a gazebo, we think of the Parthenon in Greece, whatever, building, right? And we think of this thing having these pillars, right? I know the Parthenon has like way more than 4, right? But what this is, the roof is skill proficiency. Okay. It's what you know. It's what you're able to do in a given situation. Okay. But that's being supported. I was going to say by 1 or more. I hope there's more than 1. But anyway, right? So it's 4 areas of training, 4 aspects of training that we can pull out, right? So a lot of you guys know this term, Tai Sabaki, right? Body management. Right? I know some people just say body movement, but body management, right? So 3 of these have to do with Tai Sabaki. There's another one that has to do with more of the dynamics, okay? So I'm going to change this to where we have, let's just do it this way, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. They're in no particular order. And then what we have above it is our roof, okay? So, but we're looking at these things, okay? And again, they're in no particular order because they're all equally important, right? So here's the thing. If I'm missing one of these, may not be a problem unless the wind blows in a certain direction, in which case I have a problem, right? And even if the building doesn't fall, it's going to put major strain on these things. Okay, we get this, right, from an engineering perspective. Okay, not a big deal. If I'm missing 2 of these, I'm going to have a major problem. Hopefully, we're only missing 1, or when I say missing, I mean it's like maybe the wood's dry rotted or whatever. Okay, we're not that great at it. We just have to hope that the situation that we're facing doesn't require it. Okay, because the more of these things that are firing, the better off we're going to be. Right. So first one. Okay? Again, no particular order. Right. And you guys have probably already heard these things, but what I want to look at it from the perspective of is we need to pull these things out. If I'm working on a given technique, form is the easiest thing to work on. But the rest of these are in the tactical realm. It's how the technique is applied. It's how the power in a technique is increased or diminished. It's how we control him. Right? So first one, again, no particular order, right? We have timing. Right? So timing is, but by the time somebody goes to test for Nidon with me, there's 3 types of timing that they have to be able to demonstrate absolute confidence with. 1, we would call coordination. It's being able to time their body parts with each other so that the body can move freely, right? We're not moving and having the hand behind before it moves forward. Yeah, but that creates more power. So does putting the hand in front of me and getting my body weight behind it, right? And this doesn't leave an open window, right? So timing, right? So coordination is my body parts moving in coordination with each other, and I work to find out how that happens, right? Second one is my timing based on his movement. So we might call that shadowing, right? Or mirroring. So as he moves, I move, right? I let him lead the dance, okay? He has a certain timing, he has a certain speed, he has a certain motion, those kind of things, based on his height, his weight, his limb length, all that. You don't have time to think about this stuff in a fight. What you need to do is gather the information as quickly as possible, or through training, understand taller, slower, but greater reach. Bigger, heavier, slower, don't get touched by him. Okay. shorter, skinnier, faster, but there's less impact because there's less body weight, less muscle mass to be able to generate that force. Not that he can't knock you out, but you get the idea, right? Okay. So, and then the third one is the rhythm of the fight. It's this back and forth give and take, and the fight has a rhythm to it, right? So, one of the things that students are taught is never do the same thing more than twice, right? And that's not because of physical rhythm, it's because of mental rhythm, right? Don't do things at the same time. So if we're doing a drill, let's have in front of somebody and he's just working high blocks or whatever, right? And so I'm reaching out to whack him on the deltoid on one side or the other. So reach out, reach out, reach out. See the timing? It's the same. So what's going to happen is his brain's going to race ahead. So instead of working on what the eyes should be doing so the brain can process it, right? Faster than the intellect can process it, right? So if I keep going the same speed, he knows when I'm going to do the next thing. Okay. If I keep doing the same rhythm, he knows which one's coming next. So the trick with this kind of stuff is I can't do the same thing more than twice because the human brain jumps ahead and makes an assumption. Okay. I can play with that, but I don't want to fall into it. And the same thing with when I move. Okay. But in the beginning, for a new student, especially at this level right here, we get really, really good at letting him lead the fight. Okay. Dictate speed, dictate timing, those kind of things. But then the fight takes on kind of a life of its own, right? You ever watch some fights? Guys will maneuvering, and all of a sudden there'll be like 2 or 3 shots, and then they'll back off, and then there'll be 2 or 3 shots, and then they'll back off, right? At other times, somebody will just shoot right in there, and then it just turns into this wrestling match. But there is always a natural rhythm, especially in wrestling matches, right? So because of the glycogen stores in the muscles, you only have, depending on your fitness level, a 7 to 11 second burn of that glycogen before the body goes into a resting pattern. So what you'll see is if both people are wrestling, they'll both be doing their thing and they'll be all over the place, and all of a sudden they'll lock in and hold. And you can watch a stopwatch. And then all of a sudden one or both of them will start moving again. So I don't cover it that much in the module that we're coming up with, but for my Shodan and Nidan people, they need to learn to move when he's in a hold pattern, and they need to hold and relax anything that's not necessary for defending against him or defending against what he's doing while he's moving. Okay? Because you need to conserve energy. And what I want to do, we have these what do they call hills and troughs or whatever in a wavelength kind of thing. So this is peak energy. We can move. The trough is when your body goes into a resting mode. What most people tend to do is they're both in peak or they're both in hold. What I want to do is match my peaks to his holds and my holds to his peaks. Okay. I've done this with people. I had somebody had me in a dojime choking the crap out of my ribs where I couldn't breathe. So these muscles had to fire to protect organs, but I rested everything else, and it didn't get any lighter when he went into a hold pattern, but he stopped moving. And when I stood up, he was in a pike position because his body couldn't do a lot, right? And then it was just easy because I had rested my legs the whole time to slam his spine into the floor till he let go, right? So the trick is in understanding how the whole thing works. There's 3 types of timing, right? Timing, distancing, right? Using distance, right? In this module, in this training, we are using long-range distancing to break his strength. If we stretch him out, break his stability, we break his power, we break his strength, and we neutralize a big guy's advantage because he needs his legs under him and he needs to have lots of stability so he can grab you and shake you around. Okay. Even somebody who's fast, right? Distance equals time. You put yourself farther away, takes longer for that fast thing to get from point A to point B. You buy yourself these little microseconds and you make things work. Okay. Somebody grabs me and they're really locked on and I can't get that hand off, right? By shifting long range and getting him. Now, there's a correct distance because if I don't move far enough, he maintains strength. If I move too far, I pull him off balance. He steps, corrects himself, and he has strength again. So I need to find out what that is so that when I get there, he's not strong anymore. Okay. So there's proper distance. In mod 2, we work long range distance. In mod 3, we work on close range distance and preemptive movement because, right, we got one guy that I don't want to get hit by, right? But he needs to wind up. Okay. So mod 2 is really against somebody who's faster, stronger, that kind of thing. Mod 3, these guys that they need this big old wind up kind of thing. I want to be in there and be able to rob him of the space that he needs. Okay. In mod 2, we're creating time and distance, right? Time and space. In mod 3, we're stealing time and space, like the good ninja that we are. Okay. In mod 4, it's a very tricky kind of timing because we're not just moving last second to break his balance. I want to do that while attacking at the same time. But it's not the same as mod 3 stuff. I have to be good at that. But what I want to be able to do is get really, really good at flanking. Okay. The advanced version of this is for my Sandan to Yondan guys, where they learn to hide in these pockets around the body. And so you have full access to him and he can feel you, but he can't get at you because of the limits of the joints and the body size and the way the body's put together. Okay. So the key dynamic in mod 4 is effortlessness, but not when people do relaxed energy, it's not fucking relaxed. It's dead. Right. Same thing with mod 3. The key dynamic is speed, but not in moving the limbs faster. It's learning how to shave time because of distance, right? It's learning how to preempt his movement. But if I guess, and he wasn't in the process of going from mental to physical to attack, he's going to see it coming, right? So anyway, the primary dynamic in mod 2 is power, right? Using the body weight in motion to create this, mass in motion. You didn't have to be good in physics in school to pass my class or to do my class. Anyway, timing, distancing. Most of you already know what the next one is, right? Angling. Okay. All these things tie together because distance equals time. Angling affects distance, right? Pretend that's a square, okay? If all these were the same length, okay, and I move square to this person, which is kind of like a Gikan kind of thing, but if I move like this, then it's always the same distance, and I'm always in range. But that's why Naname, this angling, does this, right? This works because an angle, a diagonal to his positioning to where his limbs work, puts me farther away from him. But the angling of my body profiled, this is the farthest reach that my body has. Okay, out to the side. Yes? Shortest reach that I have is in this power triangle. Okay. See where my hand is? It's in the power triangle. I'm only going to turn around my spine. So correct naname is to position myself square centered on his body. So now I don't care how much taller than him he is. James, can I borrow you again? Okay. No one doubts that James is taller than me, right? Okay. He's 6'3", I'm 5'6" and change. 6'3". Holy shit. Anyway, right. So when I figured this out, oh, dude, it was like, oh, clouds open up and the harps play and all that kind of cool stuff. I have to shift this a little bit because you're too damn tall. All right. So right here, he's almost reaching, but not quite. Right. But if he takes up a fight position, just rotate around your spine. Right there, he can now hit me. He couldn't hit me a second ago. Right? This is where Kudai Dori comes in. Here, he can now reach. Okay. So I'm gonna keep this position, right? From right here, he can reach. I can't reach. Even if I turn around my spine, I can barely touch him, but he could bust my lips open. Okay. So here's the cool part. Can you back out just a little bit? Right. You don't need to see our feet, right? What you need to see is the end result. When he punches, if I position myself, now this looks off. Okay. But it's not, because when he comes around to do the power triangle for his body and his knuckles are together, they're equidistant between his shoulders, and I'm on that point. He's missing me by like that much. Okay. But from right here, drop your arms. I can touch him and have room to spare. So this is what allows me to be too far from him for him to get me, but close enough to get him. Good stuff. Okay. So these are all the things that I guess they're introduced in mod 1, but we really, I don't want to say hammer it home because it's gonna sound like we beat people. All right, we beat people. Anyway, all right. So timing, distancing, angling, this is all part of Tai Sabaki, right? The fourth one is a dynamic that has to be brought back in because it goes back to a sense of timing, right? But it is timing, but this goes to that breadth of the fight thing that I was talking about, okay? Because it's one thing to move when he moves. It's another thing to fit in with his movements so that his movement helps you catch it. I'll explain that in a minute, okay? So this one is flow, okay? So yes, that timing coordination allows for flow, right? But there's this back and forth thing. I need you again, James. He keeps trying to get work done. It's just, it sucks to have somebody that actually like is all about like making things happen, right? So here's this thing, right? Sleeve grab, okay? We've all learned mechanically, right? 1, 2, 3, okay? I got to tell you, you've ever tried to catch one of those out of the air on purpose? It's really difficult, okay? But if James, we're just doing it on the side, if he throws that punch, and from right here, when he retracts, as he missed, when he retracts to punch me again, okay? From here, instead of me trying to catch his arm, when he pulls his arm back, if I just throw my arm in so he catches my arm, he's going to feel wonderful about himself. But there's no catch. He caught me. I just need to make sure that the way my arm is when he catches me doesn't have my shoulder in a weird position. Okay? We learn that punch with this stuff. So there's this give and take, but if I can fit into that, it's kind of like when you stick your fingers in the water at the beach and pull back on the sand and the water follows, right? We don't use these elemental kind of things to sound all woo-woo and freak people out. They just make really good analogies because you know how they work. So if I say it's a water thing, it's a fire thing, or whatever, we understand, right? Fire, bang, shit, right? Water, it just kind of flows into things, or it's like an ocean wave, or, right? So it's a way to categorize things. But these 4 things right here as key elements, right? Thank you. Are what allow you to have greater control over things and not fight so hard. Because anybody can learn techniques. anybody can apply a technique if you force it hard enough. But it kind of contradicts the whole principle of the art, which is when I'm 80, I need to be able to defend myself against a 20-year-old shit, right? So where he's got more than the advantage. He's faster, he's stronger, he's lighter on his feet, he has more freedom of movement, right? So here's the cool thing that I learned from Hatsumi Sensei a long time ago. If we focus on the same stuff that most martial arts focus on, there's a reason that 32 to 35-year-olds in these martial arts organizations are considered in the what do they call it? The senior division, right? And then you get handicap points, right? 32, 30, I'm 60, almost 61, right? 32 to 35 is like foreign to me. It's just foreign to me now as it was when I was 16, right? But there's such a huge discrepancy there. But if I focus on that conventional stuff, that diminishes over time because it requires a level of fitness. It requires a level of muscle conditioning. It requires all kinds of stuff to be faster, stronger. Yes, we get this. Yes. Okay. You start to get arthritis and all that kind of shit, and things just start to go away. Right. But the cool thing is that timing, distancing, angling, these things are space and time related. You actually get better at those over time because you have more experience and you've worked with more things in the world. So while the things that most people focus on diminish over time, the things that we're focusing on increase over time. And then my ability with these and my ability to move freely, my footwork, those kind of things, right, influences this. But these are all equally important. Okay, so we're not even going into like the kotsu, the essential nature of the technique, because the first three elements that I learned that this whole art was founded around, or that the three major core principles, right? Some of these are on there, but these are this kind of thing, right? Are nagare, flow, ritsudo, rhythm, right? And mai, distancing. Okay. But distancing gets influenced by angling. Okay. But when I cover distance, what I really mean is range. Okay. Defensive range, attacking range, all that kind of stuff, right? Angling affects distancing. Distancing affects time. The farther the distance, the longer the time it takes, or more time it takes to cross that distance. Shorter the distance, less time it takes, that kind of thing. My ability to flow and not waste time, not be doing this stop, start kind of thing, right? That robotic chink, chink, chink kind of thing, right? That changes. So we have, in this program, we have training drills to be able to move smoothly from kamae to kamae to kamae, right? While maintaining proper distancing, proper angling, that kind of thing. We have training drills for being able to go from defense to offense and from offense to defense without a stop at the end of each one. Right? Because if we stop, he's either regaining his balance or he's going to fill in that moment. Now, for those of you who've been around for a while in the upper levels, right? If you're in that program, or you're in what I would be considered in the Shodan and Nidan kind of thing, then, or I'm sorry, Nidan to Sandan, then we're going to generate pauses. We're going to create these little hesitations to force his hand to make him attack before he's ready. Okay. So a lot of this is a paradigm shift, but it is where it is, right? So again, what I want to cover were these four pillars, right? That we dive heavy into, and then making sure that we're clear on these three different aspects of training, so that once we get a technique and then once we get the mechanics, then we can start looking at the tactics, right? How does this kamae, right? How does choosing this kamae force him to attack a certain way? How does moving to this particular angle, right? Because angling, all these things are tactics, right? This doesn't allow moss or grass or whatever to grow under my feet at either the defense to offense transition or the offense to defense. Because if I punch and miss, I better be able to clear out of there because I missed. Think about all the stuff we use to set somebody up. If you make the same mistakes, no matter how cool you think your technique is, if you miss, you better be able to clear out, which is why the end of a ski is a forward ichimonji. Huh? If I do ski, 1, okay? All I should have to do are 2 micro moves. 1, 2 is bending my rear knee. Okay? But if my angling is off, if my range is off, if my kamae is not right, if I never made the connection between one and the other, if I think that ski is punching and not invading his space to set up the next thing, my ski is designed to break his kamae. Victor.